Can I now call on Leah Jewett of Outspoken Sex Ed to speak? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. How do we tackle violence against women and girls? A sign from the candlelight vigil after the murder of Sarah Everard pointed the way. It had the phrase, "Protect your daughter," crossed out and written underneath it, "Educate your son." Parents are their children's first and main educators, and they're sex educators, the missing link in their sex education. These days, sex ed incorporates topics like body image, LGBT+ identities, sexting, porn, gender stereotypes, pleasure, and consent. And they're all interrelated. When I co-founded the social enterprise Outspoken Sex Ed in 2018 to get parents talking openly with their children about sex and relationships, 2 things shocked me. 1, the 2016 Women and Equalities Committee report on how prevalent sexual harassment and sexual violence were in schools. And 2, the fact that from 2013 to 2017, child-on-child sexual abuse rose by 71%. What springs to mind as a probable factor is porn, 88% of which is said to be violent or degrading towards women, and how it might influence children and young people's sexual development, attitudes, and behavior. I believe that the accessibility of porn is the genie out of the bottle that has sparked people the world over to acknowledge that porn is now sex education by default. The antidote is critical thinking and talking openly. Outspoken Sex Ed was founded on the premise that talking openly at home helps with safeguarding, improves mental health, and strengthens the parent-child connection. We signpost parents to the latest news stories on sex and relationships topics they can use as ways in for starting sex ed conversations with their kids. Making news last month was the Police Scotland campaign, "Don't Be That Guy," which encourages men to call out gender-based violence and challenge their attitudes. Its message is, most guys don't look in the mirror and see a problem, but it's staring us in the face. Sexual violence begins long before you think it does. Don't be that guy. Meanwhile, as White Ribbon UK explains, men's violence against women exists on a continuum. Sexist jokes, banter, catcalling, and harassment can end with rape and murder. Also hitting headlines in the past few years have been female-led initiatives from Me Too, Time's Up, and Everyday Sexism to recent impressive campaigns by young women. There's Our Streets Now, which combats public sexual harassment. There's the Teach Us Consent petition. There's Girls' Night In, mobilizing women to boycott bars and clubs after the needle spiking outbreak. There are the consent classes being piloted by Reclaim These Streets and Shout Out UK. And of course, there's the power of the testimonies, 54,000 now, which galvanized Ofsted into action to review sexual abuse in schools, and which made the words "everyone's invited" shorthand for confronting rape culture. Public awareness campaigns around smoking and drink driving change people's attitudes and behavior. It can happen, as Hemingway wrote, gradually, then suddenly. An article in Bazaar magazine put it well. We came up with hands, face, space. Surely we can create messaging on ending male violence. Yes, the personal is political, and knowledge is power, and sex education begins at home. Schools encouraging parental engagement in relationships and sex education, RSE, is vital, and parents talking openly with their children about difficult sex and relationship topics continues to play a crucial part in making violence against women and girls socially unacceptable. Parents these days generally have not been raised with parents who spoke openly with them, so it's very difficult to talk about sex and relationship issues, particularly pornography. However, the British Board of Film Classification has said that children are coming across it at younger ages, some as young as 7. Either they're shown it, they've looked for it, or they've found it. They come across it. But it's so important for parents to have the skills and the confidence and the tools to be able to just challenge themselves and to try to talk openly to, as you say, normalize as well at home the fact that that you can talk openly, and then because statistics also show that children do want to be able to turn to their parents for talking about sex and relationship issues.
Thank you.
I wanted to address the issue of what to do as a man. If you have children, or you could try speaking to the children and young people in your life, but if you're a parent and your father, for example, it's so wonderful to show vulnerability to sons or daughters and to be able to speak openly with them about sex and relationship issues. And generally, it falls to the mother in a family to speak about these things. However, it's wonderful that if men can open up and talk to their daughters and to their sons about things like pornography or how they felt growing up, going through puberty and that sort of thing. Because sex and relationships is something that's so important to all of us our whole lives long.